Hi, folks, and welcome to our webinar. We're going to just wait a few more minutes while we've got more attendees joining us. So sit tight and know that we're here. We'll be on in another minute or two. All right, folks. Well, welcome for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started with this afternoon's webinar on GHADs 101. I hope you came with a, desire and interest in learning all about geologic hazards and geologic hazard abatement districts, and maybe more than you ever wanted to or thought you could possibly learn about them. But it's going to be a great time, and we're looking forward to helping provide information and answer questions that folks have about this. My name is Justin Salters. I am on the project team supporting our community engagement and external affairs, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. We'll go ahead and we'll introduce our panelists in just a few moments. So our agenda for today, after our welcome and explanation of what we have going on, we're going to go ahead and we'll introduce our panelists, and then we'll go ahead and get to their presentation on geologic hazard abatement districts. So we get asked often how we use the information you provide. So for folks to know, we are committed to respecting the privacy of all Brisbane residents, businesses, and others who engage with our project. We do ask you to register on Zoom to get the links for these meetings, or to fill out information, the forms on our websites. Just so folks know, we never sell your information or share it with third parties that are unrelated to this. And one of the reasons why we do ask folks to register on Zoom for all of our virtual office hours and webinars is to help prevent spamming and to have an extra layer of protection for all of us from any types of inappropriate materials. I think we've probably all been on one or more meetings, unfortunately, that we've seen hijacked, and we're doing our best to prevent that from happening. Today's webinar is being recorded. We're recording it so that people who aren't unable to attend tonight can watch it later. We do post the recordings onto YouTube, and we also post them on our website, brisbanequarry.com. We will have tonight's webinar available to be viewed by this Friday, Friday the 13th. No omens associated with that. This is a webinar format, so asking questions today or later. During the webinar, please use the Q&A function to go ahead and submit your questions. I'm moderating that and have it open, and we'll go ahead and where we'll do our best to respond to the questions that are asked today. After the webinar, if you have questions, you can submit them on our website. We have a contact us form. that those get sent to me. Or if you want to bypass the form, you can always email them directly to me. I'm justin@haysalty.com, or my colleague Kit at Kit Cole Consulting, and we will do our best to get responses for you. In addition to sending us emails or the webinar, I am going to make a plug for our virtual office hours. I'm actually going to make 2 plugs, one right now and then in a second at the end of the webinar. But one of our regular cadences of opportunities to engage with the team, we host virtual office hours on the second and fourth Wednesday of the month for people to attend, ask questions, and review the FAQ document with us. Today's the second Wednesday of the month, so we're holding this webinar in lieu of our office hours. But if you do like to join us, the more the merrier. And sometimes I even unblur my background from my office on the virtual office hours. So without any further ado, our panelists for today, we have Uri Eliyahu, the president and CEO of NGO, and Haley Ralston, a project geologist at NGO. They are the experts of all experts on geologic hazard abatement districts. I would say they wrote the book on it, but I don't know that back with the Beverly Act, Uri, what you were doing in 1979 as it relates to these. So, but in terms of the technical expertise and familiarity with how these work and the specific hazards they're addressing, you will be hard pressed to find anybody who's got more experience and more depth of knowledge in that field. We're also joined by Jim Summers from De Silva Gates, who's got experience with construction projects and other developments that have used geologic hazard abatement districts as part of their development, and has a kind of an operator, if you will, or a GHAD member. Maybe that's the right word. See, I'm going to learn some more tonight too. GHAD member point of view that could potentially be of interest to folks. And then lastly, but not leastly ever, we have Megan Jennings on the call. She's a partner at Koblenz, Patch, Duffy, and Bass. They are the CEQA counsel for the Quarry Innovation Center. And if there are any specific questions that come up as it relates to the California Environmental Quality Act, we've got here as just an extra resource to be able to answer questions and try to not have a let's get back to you. We need to run that by one more person. So we've got really, I think, an all-star panel, and I will do my best as your facilitator moderator to keep things interesting and engaging and moving along. But let's go ahead and jump right into our presentation. So Uri and Haley, I will hand it over to you.
Thanks very much, Justin. Can you hear us okay?
We sure can.
Great. So we have a brief presentation on what geologic hazard abatement districts are, how they're formed, and sort of how they operate. We're going to try to move through these slides quickly so that we can maximize the time available for questions. But please, all questions are welcome. Next slide. So there are approximately 50 GHADs in the state. They only exist in California. They were created by the Beverly Act in 1979, which created these unique entities under California law to address geologic hazards. You can see roughly where the distribution of GHADs is in the state. We have many in Northern California and around the Bay, and quite a few in Southern California. They actually were created in Southern California for a project called Rancho Palos Verdes, which was actually back in the news about a year ago or two. But even back in the 1970s, it was a situation where there were roughly 450 homes literally sliding into the Pacific Ocean. And so this unique instrument under California law was created by Senator Bob Beverly, hence the Beverly Act. And it has been extremely effective over the years. So the law, the GHAD law, can be found in that section that's cited there, starting with 26,500 of the Public Resources Code. But in summary, these are independent state-level agencies. They are political subdivisions of the state of California that specifically exist to abate, mitigate, prevent, and control geologic hazards. Geologic hazards are in turn very broadly defined to include any natural or unnatural movement or land or movement of land or earth. And so that includes the obvious things. It also includes things that are less obvious, such as wind erosion, groundwater, etc. Next slide. So the benefits of GHADs, first and foremost, is that they exist for a particular purpose. They exist for a particular set of potential geologic hazards, and therefore their assets and their attention can be focused. They're designed to be able to respond very quickly to situations. We have many examples of GHADs having to react in massive rainstorms in the middle of the night to protect improvements, to save structures, etc. One of the really important functions of GHADs is prevention and management of open space. In the world of geologic hazards and geotechnical engineering, often it's such that a dollar spent on prevention can save $100 or $1,000 in repair. And in order to be nimble, GHADs enjoy certain exemptions under the law to allow them to undertake these activities. Next slide. So in order to form a GHAD, either the process is initiated by the property owners, and therefore it is in the form of a petition, or the process is initiated by the legislative body within whose jurisdiction the area lies. In this case, it would be the City of Brisbane. And in that case, it would be by resolution. So either by petition or resolution, a GHAD can be created. There are two types of board structure available for GHADs, and only two, no hybrids allowed, and no changing. There are no provisions in the law to ever change from one to the other. They are either 5 property owners from within the boundaries of the proposed GHAD, or the members who sit as the board of the legislative body. That is, in this case, the City Council of Brisbane. And then other GHAD staff are appointed, including treasurer and clerk and GHAD manager, etc. Next slide. All right, a legally required document, actually sort of the owner's manual, if you will, of the GHAD, is called a plan of control. It must be prepared by a certified engineering geologist, and it must include all those items shown on the left, those 3 bullets there. A modern plan of control also includes multiple other things, such as those shown on the right. When will the GHAD act, when it won't? How will it prioritize expenses if there are insufficient funds to carry out all of the wishes of the GHAD or all of the things described in the plan of control? What are the criteria by which the GHAD would accept an area for long-term maintenance? And the plans to monitor and maintain all of the features of the physical features of the GHAD. Next slide. Okay, where does the money come from? That's always a question, and we can get as detailed as we need to in the Q&A. But the simplest question, the simplest answer is that GHADs can be funded from any source. There are no restrictions under law as to where the funding comes from. Most often, the funding comes from a supplemental property tax assessment that is levied on each of the parcels within the GHAD. If the choice is made to fund the GHAD in that manner, then the establishment of that assessment is subject to the provisions of Prop 218, which was voted in 1996, November 1996, and went into effect the 1st of 1997. And it essentially requires that the affected parcels have a vote in whether to impose the assessment. It also requires that certain findings be made, such as proportionality between the assessment and the benefit received, etc. So effectively, it requires a vote of the landowners before the assessment can be imposed. But again, any source of money is allowed, including grants, including private money, etc. Okay, then that money gets divided into sort of three buckets. One is the ongoing operations, which include monitoring and maintenance, such as cleaning of V-ditches and things like that, minor repairs, etc. Then there's a portion of the budget that's allocated for capital improvements to reduce risks over time and to improve performance, etc. And then some of it goes into a long-term reserve for those things that are inevitable over the long run. The long run may be centuries, that are infrequent, could be expensive, and unpredictable as to timing. Next slide. So a typical GHAD reserve, if you look at sort of the height of the blue at any given time, is such that there's usually some starting amount of money. And over time, as money gets put into reserve, again, that's a portion of the budget goes into reserve every year. And then over decades, there are events that draw it down. And what we look for in designing these budgets is that the bottoms of all those little events, the troughs of those dips, have a positive slope, that is, that has an upward trend. That top line is the greatest conceivable exposure. And so over time, we build a reserve to be able to handle that. And if the blue gets up to that line, then the board of the GHAD can choose to reduce or suspend the levying of the assessment for some time until more funds are needed. We do have GHADs, now that they've been around for 40 years, almost 40 years. No, more than 40 years, sorry, almost 50 years. We do have GHADs that have reached that reserve target and have reduced or suspended completely their levy of the assessment. Next slide. All right, so we talked a bit about the monitoring. The monitoring is a very important part of being able to understand where the weaknesses might be, where the vulnerabilities might be. The GHAD's contract for the work that needs to be done, both planned and unplanned, There's scheduled maintenance that has to happen, etc. And of course, the GHADs are available for emergency response. The contractors that are engaged to do the site work, whether it's maintenance or repair, have provisions in their contracts that provide that they would be available in 2 or 4 hours, depending on what the event might be. And that's 24/7, 365. Next. Okay.
Now let's go ahead and see if we have any questions from folks. Thank you, Uri, for the presentation. Also, I should say.
No questions?
We haven't received any yet. So I guess, I'll put a question out there. So uh, the two routes to go with the formation, Uri, are the petition from the property owners within the GAD boundaries and the resolution by the local agency. My understanding is the GAD that's being proposed with the Quarry Innovation Center will only include the quarry property. There's no other properties that are going to be a part of this GAD. So what is typically the reason or the motivation for property owners to petition for a GAD?
Yeah, I'm sorry, the reasons?
Yeah, like what's the reasons that property owners would petition for a GAD?
Yeah, so GADs exist effectively as a recognition of the fact that post-development residual risks, geologic risks, can't be reduced to zero. That slopes weather just like the paint on our house weathers, and that over time in a geologically active area like California, there will be some maintenance or some response required. It's just a fact of living here. And those risks are not insurable. Earth movement is explicitly excluded from homeowner policies, property owner policies. And so the idea is to recognize that and create a mechanism by which two things are achieved. One is that there will be sort of funding and professionals looking after these things. That's one. And the other is, if funding allows, is to reduce that risk over time, which is very different than many other insurance models where there's not incentive on the part of the premium payer to reduce the risk because the risk belongs to the insurance carrier. So here is a means by which to reduce the risk and to recognize that over time it exists and be able to act on it. The picture here is an example of an emergency response. On the left is private property. On the right is open space. And you can see right to the right of the question mark there is a slope failure, and it all flowed down. And the GAD came in and quickly put in that wall as a temporary wall to contain that debris flow until such time, usually when things dry out, it could all be repaired. That's not something that can be covered by insurance.
Great.
That would just become the problem of that property owner. Now, luckily, it looks like that property is big enough that debris flow may not have reached the structure that was there, probably a house. But there are many examples where houses have been damaged or completely destroyed.
Great. Thanks, Uri. That was a very perfectly thorough answer to my question. Thank you. Well, not seeing any other questions that have been submitted during the time. We're going to keep moving forward just with today's and wrapping up this webinar. We love feedback on things. So we do have a survey that you can go ahead and scan your screen like I'm doing right now, and you can take a very short, should not be any more than 2 minutes. And these are all going to be anonymous. And if the survey says Advanced Manufacturing 101, it's the right survey. It's just that's our webinar feedback survey. And then as a reminder that my colleague Kit and I are both available to connect if you have any additional questions. You can email those to us or submit them on our forum. And then my last plug for my upcoming office hours, we have one in 2 weeks on March 25th, and then we'll be back in April. And there are the 2 QR codes to register for them, either on the second Wednesday or the fourth Wednesdays of the month. So thank you very much for folks attending. Thank you, Uri, for the very informative presentation and great information about this. We look forward to continuing to educate and inform and engage Brisbane and our project stakeholders about what we're doing, which includes the GHAD. So thank you so much for your time, everybody. It was great to see you all.
Thank you. Thanks, Justin.